Okay, so this episode is a slightly different format to how we'd usually go ahead with the truth about business. Obviously, we have the terrible situation with the coronavirus and big changes being made by businesses across the country. And very kindly, Neale Lewis, the Scaling Up coach, contacted me recently and said, Ben, I'd really love to jump on the podcast and just share some ideas and thoughts of how people can best deal with the situation that we're going through. So today, Neale is going to join us on the podcast to share some practical ideas and tips based on the clients that he's working with and his own experiences that can hopefully see us manage this whole situation far better. So firstly, Neale, thank you for joining us on the show today.
Hey, you're very welcome. It is, as you're right, you say, unprecedented times. And I think it's these times that as a community, first up, we all pull together and we think about what's really important for our loved ones, making sure everyone stays safe, make sure that we do whatever's best for our team wherever we can. Again, that's something we'll talk about in the call. But just to give it some background,
please,
to where I've come from, Ben. I think for most of my sort of corporate career, as it were, I worked in the hospitality industry, not a million miles from Derby, in Burton-on-Trent, for what was Bass Brewers, and then became Molson Coors. I was lucky enough to be in lots of different roles, and that equipped me well when I took redundancy 12 years ago to see actually how I could apply my skills and whatever to just to help the business community. So set up in 2008, and then I was just sort of working through groups like the BNI, just trying to get established and learn how to network and all the other things that are important when you start out in business. And for that time, mainly helping really, really small businesses. I was a really small business and helping really small businesses grow. And that's been my passion, really. And we set a purpose down, or big, hairy, audacious goal about 10 years ago to help create 1,000 jobs around Derby just through the business we've helped. And that now has grown out a bit. So we'll talk about that another time. But as I've grown myself and developed myself, we probably help more established companies now that are looking to grow rapidly, using a scaling up methodology you just alluded to, just to recognize that they have slightly different skills and requirements. Once you establish yourself from a startup, how do you help them really move through that high growth phase and equip them with the mindset and the tools they need to really kick on from there?
It sounds like a fascinating career to be involved with, obviously getting to see how the inside of many different businesses in many different sectors works.
You're right, and very privileged now to work and have clients all across Europe. We have an office in London, and fortunately that's obviously closed down at the moment. But it is a real privilege to work in alongside some amazing people who've got huge dreams, massive aspirations. What things they're doing will be changing the world in many respects for the better, and just be alongside them on their journey, as you're right to say, is sort of really helping to live a sense of purpose.
Okay, so let's get into the current situation with the coronavirus, and I think probably the best way to get into that is can you share some examples of some of the challenges that the business you are working with are facing right now, and maybe some of the solutions that they're already implementing, or some solutions that you'd recommend yourself?
Definitely. And I think, speaking to the sort of challenges you've had over the last few weeks as well, first up, I think everyone is scrambling to first figure out how much of an impact it's going to have on their particular business. Now, clearly, if you are in a business that's been affected, like retail or a pub or hospitality industry, and you've maybe had to close your business, you've had to make some very, very quick and drastic decisions around that. Others, I think it's still largely sort of trying to fathom out what exactly is happening. So quite a few clients are in the manufacturing industry and are still continuing to manufacture because they have one of my clients is looking to see how they can start making ventilators and doing some great stuff in that particular area. Others in the tech world, actually for them, they're able to work and adapt pretty quickly. They can pivot and work from home and continue to do that. And for many of them, they've been doing this type of remote working for a while. So the ones that have found it the most hardship are those that really have made huge, tough decisions about scenario planning. I think that's the first thing to do is, if you haven't done it already, is to start thinking about what would be the impact of your business if you saw revenues drop by 20%. what would be the impact if revenues dropped by 50%? What worst case scenario if you had to shut down, revenues drop by 100%? What are the different scenarios that you'd be putting into your business right now? And that might mean that you have to furlough some of your employees. And Ben, you probably may just want to tell people what that means.
Fellow, so well,
Yeah.
it's the new buzzword of the moment, isn't it? So as far as we understand, because the information has been very limited with regards to who qualifies this, but it's for people who are being put on basically unpaid leave. So they're remaining on the payroll for the business, obviously not seeing the fruits of the labour from that. However, they will be getting hopefully this 80% top up from the government.
Yeah. So Richie, I can't remember his surname, the Chancellor announced this on Friday night. I think this is welcome news, because if you have to make some tough decisions about downsizing so that you can manage your cash flow, and I think that's the very first thing that we need to really get into right now. Cash is king. This is the oxygen of any given business. So once you've done that scenario planning, figure out all the areas in terms that you need to either furlough your employees if you can do that. Look at other cutbacks, and unfortunately that might mean for others, I'm going to let people go, and that is as tough as can be. But also look at other areas that you can maybe save cash. So if you are in a position where you are some major outgoings, look at all those major outgoings and maybe see if you can negotiate around the rental basis, and see if you can get a freeze on that or your mortgage for a period of time. I think that would be one of the first things to do. We're obviously seeing that for a lot of businesses, there's going to be a rates holiday, so you can get that worked through. Any major payments like the VAT or any corporation tax, the government are putting in place now some holidays on that particular area. So make sure you do not make any sort of big payments like VAT or the corporation tax right now. See if you can get the holidays around that. And for that matter, anything else, the clients I was with on Tuesday, we're looking in terms of if they've had to make any sort of borrowings right now, they can get some payment holidays on any of those loans that they've got. And by all accounts, most people are pretty open to that. And make sure that you've got an ongoing dialogue with your bank as well. Give them in terms of an update of where you are right now. If you do need to take some potential loan money, guaranteed loan money, start the process now. Even if you don't need it, just start the process now of getting into that places, how much money you might need, so that if you do need it, you literally then have to just press the button and that money goes into your account. Because my worry is right now with these announcements is that it's all very well, but if you need cash over the next couple of weeks to survive, some of these things might not take place until another 3 or 4 weeks. So just make sure you really got that ongoing relationship with your bank, explaining where you are each day. So I think get onto those cash things wherever you can. Make cutbacks as hard as you can do to preserve cash, and have a plan in place to look at your cash flow over the next 90 days. What does that look like, so that you've got at least some sort of peace of mind? So I think that's the first thing. Anything else you talk about around cash, Ben?
Well, I think going back to your original point of scenario planning, I think one of the things that's been most difficult about this whole situation is the fact that nobody really has been able to predict what's coming the next day, never mind the week later or a month later.
Yes.
And I think because of that, a lot of people have caught themselves short, or they've been making decisions the previous day and then been thinking along the lines of, have we done the right thing? Have we done enough, or have we not done enough? Because we just haven't known what's going to happen next. So I really appreciate that, putting that in place. And then if the unexpected does happen, at least you've got a loose plan to work off, rather than being caught short and having this whole situation of shock and not knowing what to do happen again. So I do like that. With regards to what you've said about negotiating prices with suppliers, obviously on the estate agency side of things, we have money subscriptions with regards to marketing the properties, advertisements, etc. And I would say on that pretty much everybody that we've had a conversation with about, look, can you even give us a 3-month break or a reduced rate, has been very open and surprisingly accommodating on that, some more so than you would have thought. So at the end of the day, it's only a question, but it's definitely going to make a big impact on our cash flow on the estate agency side of things, just from having the courage to have those conversations, because everybody can appreciate that we're all in the situation here. And I do get the feeling that more than ever, There is this talk of everybody working together, but it is genuinely happening. Whether it's big multi-million pound corporations or small local providers, everybody really is looking at what they can do for their customers and their suppliers, and vice versa.
Yeah, and that the whole thing about communication is critical. So there may be the other thing I would look at is getting into your debtors list and seeing what bills are out due over the next few weeks, and again having that conversation, see if they can maybe take some part payment and then a bit payment further down the road. Your goal right now is to preserve as much cash as you possibly can do, and as I said, good news is that having a beneficial or a good conversation with either suppliers or the revenue and like that can often net some surprising outcomes from that perspective. But be open and be honest, be upfront. The worst thing you can do, I think, is just go into this in terms of either denial or put your head in the sand and hope this all blows away. That is not going to be a great place to be in any way, shape, or form. So getting into your seeing where you owe your money, having a plan for each of those, and then making those calls as soon as you possibly can do. So I think that's that. Number 2, communication. Communication right now is absolutely critical, more so than ever before. So for a lot of you, you will have your colleagues working remotely, working away from home. A lot of them, it's going to be probably quite stressful because they're trying to have to get grips about how on earth can I work at home? I've got kids at home, got a husband at home, got the dogs barking. Everything kind of feels like it's an absolute challenge in many respects. So your role, I think, as leaders is to make sure that you've got a really rigorous communication process going. So let's think about start with your colleagues and your employees. What I'd really urge you to start with is to get into the practice of having a daily huddle, or at least one daily huddle, maybe for quite a few of them having 2. One in the morning, and what you're going to do is just to make sure that you check in with everyone and just give them an update of where the business is. And again, this is where candor really comes in. I think it's really makes sense to be open up front with people, even if it's not good news. Tell them straight up, this is what's happening, this is what we're doing about it. Number 2, you can be a great filter for what on earth's going on in the world right now. There's so much different news coming through. Certainly for the millennials, they're getting much more social media, and some might be right, some might be totally off the mark. So act as a filter. Give your perspective on what's really going on in your business, in the world as you see it, what's going on with the customers, what is going on with suppliers. Just being open up front around that communication. Number 2, get all the team then just to give their perspective back. What do they focus on today? What are their goals? What are they working on? What are the outcomes? What did they achieve yesterday? Again, they just need some sort of guidance. And for those, some people might need some challenging, more not in your face, but just help in terms of managing their workload and managing their day. Others will just be able to get on with it. So it's just being able to do just that. And also be open to stuck. If someone is stuck or has got some real issues, make sure that you've got an open door, an open Zoom call to somewhere, that if people are genuinely stuck or in a bad place, that they can reach out to you. That, I think, is absolutely critical. So a lot of my clients now are doing that in the morning, first up, and then doing one later on in the afternoon. What did we achieve today? Great, well done. Be the cheerleader, act as the motivator, and then great, that's what we're going to get on with tomorrow. So I think that's certainly communicating with your team, and also with empathy as well. This is not the time for real micromanaging. This is not the time for making people feel bad or picking up on those little mistakes. People are already stressed as it is, and so being in a place where you can actually show real empathy, show leadership, check in with everybody how they're doing, and make sure that you are recognizing that people have stepped up and have done good work. So I think I'd call that out. Anything else you'd add to that, Ben?
I think there's some very good advice there with regards to the huddle. That's something that we've been doing with the team, just to let everybody know that we are still here, as leaders of the business as well. We're putting as much work into it as they are, because it only takes to a couple of days from working at home for people to start to feel left out. So you still want to make sure that everybody is feeling included as part of this team, and you're all working together to get through this horrible situation. But I would also add to that, sometimes people think of, conference calls and video calling, and they think, well, we haven't got the technology for that. But there is very simple technology out there now that can facilitate that. So you already mentioned one, the Zoom, the Skype, that you can have multiple people on video conferences. Even WhatsApp now, I think you can have multiple people on a video call at the same time. So being able to actually see the team and communicate with them is far cheaper and far easier now than it has been in the past. So there's lots of stuff out there that can help you with that.
Definitely. And then using things like Microsoft Teams or Slack is a great way in terms of being able to update in terms of where you are with a project, what are the priorities for the day. And if you just need to reach out to someone, you just a quick Slack message, and that gets maybe a problem or something resolved. So I'm seeing a lot of clients using that really quickly. It's amazing in these challenging times how much creativity comes around, different ways of doing things. That actually some research is showing, I think, people who are doing this already, remote working, know this already, but I think we'll see this the other side, is that people who work remotely are more productive, can be achieving more. In fact, you don't have to travel into work so much, but having clear briefings of what needs to be done. So I think communication with your colleagues is important, as is communication with your customers. And what we're doing right now with our customers is, one, making sure that we communicate with no sort of feeling of expectation, but just making sure that whatever we do, we communicate best practice, our filters, daily motivation. I've got a little sort of note to all of our clients right now, sort of a daily dose of vitamin C, just to help them with the tools and anything I think is going to be beneficial, but making sure that I'm giving and adding value as much as we can do, and being there for them, being live to what issues and what challenges they may have. They know that they've got an open door if they've ever got an issue that they want to discuss through with me. Right now, for them, a lot of them are literally doing, scrambling to just do whatever it takes. But deep down from a few of the messages that they appreciate that you're thinking of them.
Yeah, and in these sort of crisis situations, when you're trying to close down offices, you're trying to work with the team, you're trying to change the way the business operates, it's quite easy to quickly forget about all of the customers that you've got there are equally waiting for updates and information from you as well.
Yeah. So just be a human. Just sort of, we're all going through this at the moment, knowing how tough it's going to be. We'll take a significant hit over the coming months. We won't be doing anywhere near as much coaching, but it will just change our business. But that's not the issue right now. It's just making sure that you're doing whatever it takes for people to be able to, from our perspective, hold on to as many of the team members they can do, to be able to be in a reasonably good place around their cash. But knowing this is going to be really, really, really challenging. And I think the other area of communication is just with the community. And what you're doing, right now, is putting a service back to the community about how can you use your skills around podcasting to share these type of messages. But what else can you do in your industry right now as a leader to step up and actually either tub thump to something that the government could be doing, or something that you want to do in the local community? I think now's a real ideal chance just to get on not a soapbox necessarily, but to things aren't quite right, or you need to to make a representation of government. You just have your voice be heard. We've got great members of our community like Yvonne Gorman, who does so much in the small business community, and is really stepping up right now to make sure that voices are heard. So just have a think about what you can do to, if you've got a sort of community, maybe you're in the hospitality industry, or you're in construction industry, you're in the engineering manufacturing. What can you do right now just to do that? I've got one of my clients who's based in Warsaw, and they've taken on a real leadership role, as I said a few minutes ago, to help get ventilators worked up, to share with the manufacturing advisory board and all those sort of areas. So just have a think around that as well.
Okay, brilliant. Some excellent advice there, Neil. Thank you for sharing that with us. So we've got cash, we've got communication in terms of the C's that we really need to be focusing on there. Is there anything else that you'd add to the list as a real priority for the time being?
I think those are the real priorities. In time, there are going to be other areas that we'll come back to. I think right now this notion of it, as you've gone through this sort of first areas, then to start thinking about the planning for the next 90 days. What does that look like? And it just seems like only a few months ago, that we were really putting down everyone's strategic plans for 2020, and for a lot of people, real focus on growing their companies and seeing new markets open up and new products being brought into the market. All that's gone out the window. So right now is just make sure that you've got with your team a plan of action for the next 90 days. Some other contingency planning as well. So just think about what happens if your leadership team do get affected with COVID-19. You know, who's going to be stepping up into those key roles? What is the market going to look like? Have we got an opportunity to rethink, reshape? Are there, out of all this, some opportunities that are going to open up? So we've already seen in our local economy, just a row from us, 2 weeks ago, our publicans, all around them were totally devastated. But actually now they're kind of doing takeaway menus. They're being the local hub for food, and become almost like the local sort of shopping stroke, off license, as it were. So they've kind of pivoted from facing up to being shut for three months to actually, no, we can provide a takeout service. We can help the local community, by providing some sort of groceries and help and stuff like that. And so I'm sure we'll see a lot more of that. So have a think about what you could do just to maybe, out of this challenge, think about new products or services that would be really beneficial right now, but that may also benefit for the future.
Yeah, I think there's going to be a real sort of split down the middle between business owners and entrepreneurs who are just taking the view that this is happening, we've just got to deal with it, what will be, will be. But then there's the other side of the coin where there are people looking at it into, there's always a silver lining if you look for it hard enough. It's very challenging and terrible times, but there is always a positive if you have the mindset and the attitude to go out there and look for it. And like you say, maybe pivot towards a service that may become an amazing additional income stream when things do get back to normal.
Definitely. And I think the final thing that I'll talk about today, and we'll pick up on some other things in the future session together, because in a few weeks' time, then there's going to be the opportunity to start thinking about, actually, how can I clean up my business? We're talking about coming to spring now, but can I have a proper good spring clean? All the things that it kind of means you get around to, just sort of been putting off for years. Now's a great chance to re-look at that website, or re-look at some processes that weren't working effectively, or rethink about the sales team and how can we train the sales team. So I think there's going to be a whole raft of areas that the future session we'll have together about spring cleaning. What can I bin? What are the redundant processes that just aren't serving us anymore? Can we have a bin it theme that just gets rid of unwanted bureaucracy or things that slow the business down? And then if we start thinking about sharpening the saw, how can we then start to pull together? Because a lot of you will have kids at home right now, and I'm sure they are having ongoing curriculum sent by the teacher every single day. Maybe double maths, here's geography tomorrow, Friday you're going to do English, or whatever it is. So I think there's a real opportunity to provide your team members with an opportunity to really improve their skills over the next 90 days. And I think they'll thank you for it. They're helping their kids with the education right now, probably thinking, I'm really struggling with this maths. But what an opportunity it is to say, I can go onto some courses online now. There's like YouTube, there's so many courses you can get into like never before. So what we may do is say, right, for the Derby business community, we'll have an opportunity to sharpen the leadership skills, sharpen customer service skills. How do we go about sharpening sales skills, providing people with a route to go and do that, almost a curriculum that they can put into place, that they can then send out to their team as well. I think that would be something of real value. But at the same time, what other skill sets do you need? So right now, I'm using it as an opportunity to improve my marketing skills. A lot of my clients talk to me about websites become redundant, Neil. You need to learn how to use ClickFunnels, and you need to lead. So perfect opportunities now to look at how do we use ClickFunnels in a way that's going to improve our marketing. So I think there's a raft of things we can get to and talk about in future episodes, Ben.
Yeah, those are some great ideas there. As you've been talking, it makes me wonder, even for specific training for individual businesses, for the furloughed staff, I wonder if that qualifies as work or not. So even for those that are at home that aren't in the job right now, putting them on some sort of training and development scheme, even if it's just sending them a YouTube video to watch, I wonder which category you'd fall into with that. So
Yeah, and I think let's have a look and see if we can discover that we're not going against the spirit of that particular area, because
And so, yeah, thank you for that, Neale. You have shared some amazing insights. And I've just got one question for you, because I know you're busy. I know you've got to get off. And thank you for sharing your time with us this afternoon. I hope many people, and I'm sure many people, will have found it useful. Now, there's going to be people out there that have that positive mindset that despite the chaos, they're still continuing, they're still optimistic, they're still doing what's required. But equally, there are people who are going to be feeling very low. They're going to be feeling very negative. What would you say to those people, particularly the business owners and the entrepreneurs that have had a business that's been massively affected, just to keep them going and change their mindset?
Yeah, and that's so difficult. Right now, it's easy for people who naturally have a positive disposition and a positive mindset to see opportunities where others may see defeat. But for those who are going through significant hardship right now, then first up, I would just say, do not bottle it up. Again, I know as guys, one of the challenges we can have is to bottle all this up and think that I'm okay, when in reality, you're not okay. And what worries me more than anything else is actually, a lot of us, unfortunately, will get impacted with maybe the coronavirus. But I'm worried that more people are going to suffer from anxiety, suffer from stress, suffer from depression, and whatever may horribly come from that. So I think as a community, we need to pull together. There are clearly other areas of people who are in a bad way, like the Samaritans, that you can reach out to. I think we maybe think about how we can set up in the community if someone wants to, confide in someone like myself or whatever. Just that we have that open to do that. But there are others, your GP or your close friends and stuff like that. Make sure that you don't bottle it up. Make sure that if you have got real issues right now, that you are able to share those with others. We will go through some opportunities in the future call to think around areas of mindfulness, how to control your emotions, how to remain calm when everything around you seems to be that, some breathing techniques to make sure that and maybe again some things that we can share, other people are doing in best practice. But there's a great point you raised there, Ben, and let's not fight this alone. Let's make sure that we come together as a community. If people aren't in a good place, there's an outlet or is where people can go to connect with others. I think what we'll do after this is post some other areas that people can go to, because you raised such an important point. That and also not just business leaders, but there are going to be a lot of your team right now who are going through anxiety, going through real stress like you can't imagine. So it has been alive to that as well, that you're checking in with other and asking that question, not just are you okay, but are you okay? And really, if again, giving people the permission, the opportunity to say, no, actually right now I'm in a bad place. I am not in a good place right now. And it's the millennials, it's younger people who've never seen a crisis before in their lives, who've got no playbook, got no rule book on how to front up to these things right now. They may go onto social media and get themselves into even more of a doom loop, as it were. So again, I think we need to think around what some other areas that are going to be practical to help them. There's a number of articles that we can circulate. I think what we can do, Ben, I'm going to set up a Dropbox with lots of resources on that people want to go and find out how to, to work effectively from home. What happens if people have got anxiety, those sort of things, that we can put those resources as a link. People can easily get to those. Would that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I've got the website and the blog, so we can share the show notes in there and make sure it's posted out on LinkedIn and social media on a regular basis. So it's a great idea.
Yeah. And then tomorrow, just I'm running another webinar. I think it starts at 3:00. Anyone who, I know this is recorded, so there might just be a note out that that's on the 27th of March, just to give it a timestamp. But that's something that. But we'll be running a series of webinars over the coming weeks, just to do whatever we can do to help and share best practice.
Yeah, and just one more thing I've got to say on that, Neil, and I don't know whether you'd agree with me or not, particularly with the mindset, is that obviously people have had a big shift with regards to coming into a structured routine at work. They're familiar with their working environments,
Yep.
and all of a sudden that's been totally
Yep.
obliterated, and we've got all these distractions at home. And I think we're in the very early stages of this lockdown where we've got sunshine outside, it's lovely weather, it's something new, it's something exciting, and whether you are still in employment or whether you've been furloughed, for the first sort of few days, it's probably going to feel quite exciting and quite new. But I think quickly what people are going to find is that once they have lost that sense of purpose, when they've lost their why almost, when they don't feel like they've got a reason to get out of bed in the morning, that's when things can go bad. So if you are working from home, certainly what I found and what I am most definitely committed to is sticking to as much of a routine as I can. So getting up early, doing some exercise, having a healthy breakfast, getting my to-do list and my priorities sorted out. And, you know, there's lots of volunteering opportunities that are out there at the moment for people that aren't in employment. And not only is that going to be good for the country, but it's going to be good for your own mindset, because it's keeping you active, it's keeping you contributing towards society. So when we come back after all of this, you know, we're still the same people. We've been feeding our minds positive information. We've been contributing. We've stayed active and healthy. And I don't know, you see posts on LinkedIn saying, you know, if you fancy staying in bed till 12 and working in pajamas, go for it. But actually, I don't think that's the right thing to do for your long-term mental, physical, and well-being health.
You're absolutely right. And I think you nailed it in many respects. This is going to be quite novel for the first 2-3 days.
Yeah.
And I think the government are sending out sort of a positive note about, you know, three weeks and stuff like that. My hunch is this is going to be longer than 3 weeks. So we need to gear ourselves up for the fact that, you know, it may be longer. So routine is going to be critical. So just like your kids are going to have a timetable when they're at school, make sure you've got your own routine. Even if you're furloughed, I think about just saying, right, what I'm going to do is make sure I take care of my health over the coming weeks and months. So yeah, have your daily walk or whatever that is, but make sure that you segment the time into different days. That might be time helping the kids with their homework. That might be time doing your exercise, maybe starting up some exercise. You may be in the evening starting up and doing some new hobbies. So what we've discovered with both my daughters are back from London, so we've got a totally different sort of, you know, they're you know, sort of working in London now, so we've got to adapt to having our household, you know, with all of us back. But we're picking up, you know, playing chess again, playing Scrabble, you know, picking up some new things as a family that we wouldn't necessarily have been doing beforehand. So, you know, put that into your routine. As we talked about a few minutes ago, what we're planning to give you is some ongoing education, so that maybe in the afternoon you're going to give yourself a couple of hours that you can have what you can go and do your own education, maybe get a book where you can write down in terms of things that, one, you're going to improve yourself, but when you get back to business, here's some ideas that we can put in to improve the business as well, that you're going to have more value. And I think you mentioned purpose a few minutes ago. I think even the colleagues who are furloughed, I think it makes sense to have the sense of purpose for the business around them, the values of the organization, so they can just, even though, you know, they are in a place where they may not necessarily be able to work full time right now, at least they're being thought of and they continue to feel like they have a sense of purpose.
Yeah. Okay, brilliant. Thank you for sharing that, Neil. And I know you've got to get off, so I just want to really thank you for spending some time with us and getting some great advice out to everybody that's out there. We're definitely going to catch up for another episode. So I'll let you get off. And just a final thing for anybody that wants to find out more about you online, where can we find you? Website, social media platforms, where should we go?
Yeah. Well, we've got, I think, I've got a number of LinkedIn groups. Probably the most relevant is the Derby Business Club right now. So, you know, that's more people that we can start going online, sharing these sort of things, and where we have, whereas the Derby Business Club is quite a good sort of area that people can go to. So that's probably the most practical. And again, on LinkedIn, just look for Neale Lewis, and that's Neale Lewis. That's probably the most practical. And that's where I'm putting most of my posts right now, thoughts, muses, best practice, and those sort of things. And if everyone wants to sign up for the daily vitamin C, yeah, they're more than welcome to that. Right now, it's mainly for my clients, but a number of other people have found benefit in that, so I've been more than happy to extend them to that as well.
Yeah, myself included. Okay, thank you, Neil. We'll catch up soon, and stay safe, and we'll see you soon. Thanks, Neil. Bye.
Bye-bye.